Mumukshu Prakarana, Conduct of a Seeker. The Himalayas, the youngest mountains of planet Earth, are perhaps the most magnificent, not only because of their size, but due to the richness of flora and fauna. Rarest of flowers, animals, and an infinite species of birds dwell there. The crystal clear, emerald green blue lakes make perfect haven for a variety of aquatic life. One look is quite sufficient for a sensitive person to see through the industriousness involved in nature. The pains which the birds take to build their nests, the labor which the bees and ants put in gathering food, or the exertion of the migratory birds to move thousands of miles to protect and preserve their species from polar winters. The whole universe, from an atom to a galaxy, is eternally active to the point of restlessness. Polar bears, snakes, frogs, and many other living beings hibernate during long winters and hostile weathers, when the food becomes scarce. The simple rule of existence appears to be no activity means no food. This is also the case with human beings. We not only observe this in individuals but even in nations. The developed nations have always been very industrious, while the developing or the underdeveloped nations have been less so. This is not only true from the materialistic or survival point of view, but more relevant from the point of view of inner growth of life. It is believed by majority of Indian masses that the effort is not very essential for a person to grow spiritually. Some of the philosophers have gone to the extent of saying that the ultimate state is characterized by effortlessness, and so, how is it possible to achieve effortlessness through effort, they ask. The argument sounds very logical. Then the bhakti or path of devotion advocates total reliance on the God or the chosen deity, an attitude of total let go, because unless and until the individual I gets eliminated, one cannot possibly have union with truth. And they ask, who is there to make the effort, as everything else is done by him? Then there is this common understanding of our masses that man's actions are governed by providence, one may call it God or truth or reality. These streams of thought are very lofty in themselves, but unfortunately they become very convenient philosophies for a man with lethargic disposition. Such thoughts have gone so deep into our national psyche that we are what we are, incorrigibly lazy. The result is that we can be totally exploited by the politicians or the bureaucrats or the businessmen for decades without disturbing our pseudo-poise in the least. All these limitations of our society have convinced some of us that all spiritual practices tend to make us lazier and force us to take an escapist attitude towards life. Mostly, this observation is true, but in no way it means that spirituality encourages lethargy. Contrary to the common belief, Paurusha or human effort has always been lauded in the Indian cultural heritage. Upanishads and other Vedantic texts have wonderful statements that evoke fearlessness, the will to pursue the highest goal, as well as the confidence for generating infinite energy already within. However, these scriptures have been beyond common man's reach, and only that which is convenient has seeped through. It has always been so that if the ideal is beyond our reach, then we tend to bring it down within our reach through the approach of convenience. While Upanishads goad us to give less importance to the external, they also recommend extreme watchfulness and care while treading the inner path for freeing us from the dependency on the sense objects. Such texts are called as Uchchastras. There are other scriptures which give us the external facets of life, dealing with those efforts which increase our material and creature comforts, thus encouraging the dependency on the world of objects. They are included in secular literature. Our society always respects such persons who prefer the inner quest and growth to the outer life of day to day subsistence, unconsciously realizing that it requires greater effort and grit. The ideal prerequisites of a person who takes up such life, the problem she or he faces, and the recommended suggestions to not only solve the problems but to continue the journey with the same initial enthusiasm form the subject of this episode called Mumukshu Vyavahara Prakarana, or the divine longing. One learns the process of understanding life through personal experience as well as the purpose and other possibilities or options available in life through the Uchchastras or scriptures dealing with the spiritual. The study of such scriptures is fulfilling as it is absorbing both intellectually and emotionally. Asking questions about existence gives a peculiar satisfaction. The first problem one faces is the lack of grit to overcome the attraction for intellectual dialogue and to commence the quest. Most of us remain as collectors of information. It is very tempting and easy to stagnate in the joys of philosophical discussions because all that is required is a little common sense and a flair for words. The act of plunging headlong into a life of seeking is very demanding. The moment of decision to embark on such mysterious journey into oneself can be called as the turning point, which has to happen to every person sooner or later. The factors which hasten this turning point have been called by Vasishtha as Shuddha, the pure vasanas or tendencies, and which delay this moment as Malina, the impure vasanas. Pure vasanas are those tendencies which help the aspirant by creating a proper milieu, while the impure vasanas tie the aspirant to a life of stagnation. All our actions are governed by the self-made tendencies formed by repeated action. That is why the sage recommended the enhancement of Shubha Vasanas, which help in development of right effort, or Samma Vyayama of Lord Buddha. Sage Valmiki, the author, introduces the story of sage Vasishtha. This is to remember in all gratefulness and humility the source of wisdom that is being shared. The feeling in turn absolves him from the fear of the ego or pride, I am the teacher, which is the most dangerous of the impediments in spiritual life. The one who is sharing the wisdom with the aspirant becomes like a hollow flute through which the divine can flow. In spite of the fact that Vasishtha happens to be the foremost of the Brahmarshis, he talks of his own discipleship. This also makes the receiver of wisdom more receptive, as he gets a conviction that it is possible to achieve the objective. Another reason is to bring home the point that the present Guru was also a disciple with similar, if not the same, problems and doubts in the mind. All this creates confidence in the disciple that if the person teaching him presently can overcome the obstacles and reach the ultimate goal, he too can. Vasishtha began his teaching by stressing the importance of the mutual recognition between Shishya, the disciple, and Guru, the preceptor. Most eligible disciple is one who can differentiate between an enlightened master and an ordinary teacher. The real guru never wastes his time and energy on an aspirant still under the influence of his lower mind and senses. By this it is meant that unless one has transcended lower hungers, one cannot possibly recognize the guru even if he is just in front of his eyes. 4 sentinels guarding the gates of mukti or liberation are Shama, patience, Vichara, self-analysis, Santosha, contentment, and Sadhu Sangha, association of the wise. The greatest of the deterrents on this journey is impatience, which is more so in contemporary times. We are always complaining about non-availability of time, and the avoidable impatience is on the rise. This is very much there in all the fields and facets of life. Consequently, speed dominates our life, and in this, spirituality is not an exception. One of the most common complaints of those who take to any practice, asanas or pranayama or meditation, is that in spite of practicing it sincerely for 6 months, the period of time is stressed. No appreciable progress is observed. This hurry to achieve is to be totally avoided through the golden quality of Shama, sweet patience. Every one of us has the capacity to observe, and many times we do ask fundamental questions. For instance, we observe a person suffering, perhaps even to fulfill the basic needs of his family. He is known for his uprightness, honesty, and integrity. We also see another person leading a very lavish, easy, and comfortable life, but he is notorious as a very corrupt man. Our conclusion is, it is foolish and suicidal to be honest and wise, and pragmatic to be otherwise. However, we ignore the fearlessness of the first man and the hypocrisy or sycophancy of the second man. We observe but tend to draw hasty conclusions. This is all right for material success, but for taking up the quest it is totally different, because such cleverness is very dangerous for a seeker. A seeker questions the normal conclusions which are ordinarily taken for granted. He questions his own experiences, life and death, and draws his own conclusions based on self-observation. Vichara is taken as self-analysis, and this scripture suggests some practical methods leading to deeper meditative practices. Santosha, contentment, is the third noble quality to be developed by a seeker. Discontent and expectations are principal causes of impatience. We become impatient with the situation we are in due to discontent, and with other persons due to our expectations. But Santosha should not be taken as consolation, which is only like a soother in a crying baby's mouth. The mood of contentment dawns only when one has the conviction that going after the objects of senses, power and position, is very much like chasing shadows or horizons, as there is nothing like a shadow or a horizon. And another thing is that he or she will have a feeling of satiation either from the experiences of present or past lives. The Santosha achieved through Shama and Vichara brings in equipoise in conflicting and trying situations. However, we must not think that the person becomes cold and does not respond. On the contrary, she or he becomes more sensitive and large-hearted to look at things more objectively, as there is no involvement. Initially, when this madness, as it is normally called, starts in an aspirant seeker, others create all possible hurdles and also subtle atmosphere of hostility. It is not that they do not understand the nobility in the act, but only that it is abnormal. Used that most of us are to tread the beaten track, we would never like our near and dear ones to adopt a dangerous way of life. Many, if not most of the time, such family and social hurdles cannot be crossed, and the aspiration gets aborted at the stage of seedling itself. At such times, the aspirant needs the company of someone who has passed through the similar situation. If this happens, it is likely that the aspirant becomes a quest. Even the dawn of quest may be possible with a little determination and courage of the aspirant. But when the quest has started, Sadhu Sangha, association of the wise and the experienced, comes as a real boon for facing the internal problems which are more difficult and stubborn. Praising this fourth sentinel of Mukti, Vasishta said that it is like the holy Ganga purifying everyone who approaches her. But there is a problem. It is difficult, if not impossible, to find such enlightened persons. It is not because such persons are not available in this age of Kali. Such persons have always been existing, though in a microscopic minority, to offer their guidance. But to recognize such persons, one needs certain prerequisites or special eyes. When there is this burning thirst and longing, one can receive the grace of company of sadhus. Paramahamsa Sri Ramakrishna gave a beautiful simile to seekers. Every seeker has a lamp, cotton and oil. As soon as the aspirant finishes cleaning, preparing the wick and oiling it, the Guru has the matches and he will appear and light it. And if the lamp is not ready, neither will he recognize the Guru, nor will the Guru be able to do anything. We can take the lamp to be Shama, cotton to be Santosha, oil to be Vichara. When these are ready, we are bound to get Sadhu Sangha. But till such time, we can always take the help and guidance from the books depicting the conversations of the realized saints and other spiritual lore which help in developing the three qualities. These four sentinels on the gates of Mukti can give us freedom from the misery born out of involvement with the world. Sage Vasishta urged Rama to listen carefully to what he had to say, which would have a mellowing effect on the limitations like infatuation and greed, and the mind would become a waveless lake in the autumn. That the stories which would be narrated by him would relieve the pining mind of its delusion. One must be careful, however, to probe into the underlying significance without just caring for the surface attributes or word meanings. Keep this in mind if one listens to the stories. All the paradoxes such as attraction and aversion will vanish. Persons who have acquired such wisdom will never again be deluded. Persons treading this path of Atma Vichara never get afflicted by all powerful Maya and can maintain the equipoise. Such noble persons never waste their time, energy, or talent on anything which directly or indirectly distracts them from the path. In the absence of the company of the wise, one must perform only such actions which create Shubhavasanas and seek the company of such Shastras which help one in persevering the journey. Having totally devoted every moment for Vichara, the state of Jivan Mukti dawns. For such a Jivan Mukta, or who is an enlightened person, nothing is ordinary, as everything is divine, and nothing is extraordinary, as the essence of everything is known. Though one is in such a lofty state, he moves about in the world like any other man because he does not have anything to show, as he is totally free from desires and cravings, as he does not have even an iota of I-ness. Having attained this state, the repeated vacillation from womb to tomb stops, but he continues the Atma-vichara till the quiescent state of Turiya, the fourth, dawns on him. Though this state cannot be described in words, we can know that a person has attained this state from his behavior, attitude, and bliss he permeates to others. At this stage, this scripture gives some very useful hints about the right method of Atma-vichara. One should have the openness of mind so as to be able to listen even to a child if they are consistent with the Shastras, the words of the Guru, and the self-experience. If they are not consistent with these touchstones, they are to be rejected even if they are coming from the lips of Creator Himself. To convey that one principle beyond thought and description, and to create the mood of jnana in us, analogies are given. Though many persons negate these analogies with the argument that Brahmajnana is beyond analogies, they are useful to a sincere seeker. Moreover, such persons who busy themselves in argument tend to stagnate in mere verbal jugglery and can be called ignorant. At the same time, sage Vasishtha warned that we should also not get stuck to the stories and analogies, as they only serve as fingers to point the moon, and getting involved with them would be as foolish as taking the pointing fingers to be the moon. So, one should neither be against the stories and analogies nor for them, but be open-minded to make use of them to reach the ultimate goal. The restless activity seen in all creatures brings in tangible results and fruits to them, but it also makes them tired, forcing them to sleep, characterized by lack of awareness. Moreover, such activity is in itself somnambulistic. For a seeker, the activity has a different significance. It is without rest which brings him peace, alertness, and awareness till he unites with the one without the second. His path, which starts with difficulties, leads him towards the enlightenment. But yes, his achievement may not be perceived by others, which is why the so-called normal avoid the path chosen by him. They take it to be a tunnel leading one into darkness without realizing that the beaten track chosen by them does not have anything except repetitive births and deaths. The entire Prakarana deals with the code of conduct of an aspirant.